Hi there, today we're going to be taking a look at how we can use pop-up windows to get ourselves away from the console. And so we can actually have a lot more interactivity and a more modern feel to something we're doing. It also gets us to better work with how we can actually handle user input and how we can work on getting the necessary to be actually processing user input very effectively. So we can take a look at our project now. Let's take a look at the structure of the project. As you can see, I've got my pop-up project listed over here in my project navigator, and I've got my demo.controller package where I have my controller and my runner. I have my demo model where I'm making a coffee instance, and then I have a popup.java, which is where we're going to start off. So we're going to take a look at the actual view file, what we're looking at to actually make this happen. And so you can see we have my public class popup. The first thing we have is my import javax.swing.JOptionPane. This is the built-in pop-up tool that Java supplies as part of the Java X Swing library. However, I want to use it in a more object-oriented way. I want to get students comfortable in working, able to use objects very effectively. So we're going to introduce this as an object that we will call methods on inside our project and use it effectively with this. So let's go ahead and we'll create the code for it right here, and we'll go through it, see how we can actually use it inside a project and get a better understanding of how we can actually work with objects more effectively. So we have two methods so far. This will, class will actually get expanded upon as we learn more features and more functionality we can actually add to this. So we can make a more custom version of this. And so my public class popup, I have my method displayMessage. And so it's a public void method, and it takes a string parameter. And all it does is simply call the JOptionPane static method showMessageDialog. It has a null parameter for the first parameter, and the second parameter is for message. I'm purposely showing the null parameter right here because we can replace that with a reference to a JFrame instance, and then we can, when we do that, it'll actually center on the actual application versus simply center on the window, which makes it a much more user-friendly approach. We can actually have that happen. Then we also have our askQuestion method. Again, I'm naming this so it makes more sense for the purpose of actually using it inside projects. And so we have the displayMessage, it shows a message to the screen, versus the askQuestion method, it asks a question. And because it's a string method, it will return that string back as a response. As you can see, I initialize my response first with a default value of an empty string because, again, it's a great value. I then replace that with JOptionPane.showInputDialog, again passing it null and then question. So the question that's supplied as a parameter gets displayed to the user and then returns back whatever the user types in as response. I have a I guard my response, however, to check to make sure it's not null, because if the user presses the cancel button or the red X in the corner to close the window, that will return a null value as the response from the user. And we don't want to have that randomly show up as the string null in what we're working with. So instead of doing that, we're having a null pointer in there. I explicitly have it so if my response is null, I replace that again with a blank string because it's a much easier way to handle my code. So defensive code, good stuff to do, and make sure that my code doesn't accidentally crash something else later on. That gives me a great way to have that happening. So we'll go ahead and take a look at my coffee class we're working with right here. As you can see, I've got a coffee class as a caffeine amount, a cup size, a name, and whether or not it's caffeinated. And I have a getters and setters to go along with that, a sip method to take 2 out of my thing, and as a gulp method, it'll take out 4 from my coffee amount. I know, pretty crazy, but that's okay. And so I have my constructor right here where I pass it the cup size, the name, and is caffeinated to assign the appropriate variables from those values. Nothing big right there, just a demonstration of that model view control relationship that we see over here inside this. As always, my runner is boring. My runner simply starts up my project and lets it go inside the start method. Easy way to make sure everything's always working the way I expect it to. Then we go to our controller class. So as we can see right here, the first thing I have to do, because I have I'm working with classes that are in different packages than my actual controller package, I have to import both of them. So I have my import demo.view.popup and import demo.model.coffee. So my two classes that I'm working with, I import both of them into my project so I have access to them in my controller class because the controller can see both files. Inside my controller class, I make a data member for each of them just to do demonstration purposes. So I have a private popup named view and a private coffee instance named, I know, my coffee. And then inside my constructor, I initialize always my model first before I ever get to my view. This is to get us in preparation for when we get much more bigger constructs. We want to make sure all of our data is built before we try and actually go to and look at the view of our project. So always do your model stuff first before you ever get to your view components. So this.mycoffee is a new coffee, 24 ounces, black as night, and true because, well, black coffee is always a great way to start the day. And then this.view equals new popup. I'm going to initialize my popup object. Again, practicing making objects and then I can call methods on and use them effectively. And then we just have our start method. It's really basic right here. So as you can see right here, I have a display message to welcome to the pop-up demo. It tells me my coffee, shows me my cup size. I take a sip of my coffee. Then I ask a question. So what type of coffee should I change it to? That only returns a string. In fact, everything in GUI land for Java only returns strings. So that's why I'm practicing this right here. So I set my name to that response that I retrieve right there. And now I'm drinking my new coffee and I display that appropriate information. And then as long as I have coffee that's greater than 0 inside my cup size, I'm going to keep sipping some coffee and show how much I have left. And then response is going to ask question, how much of a refill should I get? And here I'm using integer.parseInt to take that string value and grab that information and correctly assign it into an int that I could then put inside my coffee.setCupSize, passing that parameter. We can do much more better with this to make sure we, in case the user accidentally types things that are not parsable, we take a look at that in my defensive code videos. But this is just to get us started so we can actually see how to make that work and we can display that information up. So let's go ahead and let's run this demo and we can see actually how to go through this. Hit the play button to get started. And so welcome to my pop-up demo. Oh, one more thing before we actually get into the demo. One of the amazing things about using pop-ups is because they're modal windows, your code is stopped or paused at that point because nothing else can happen. So you can easily see exactly where you are in your code just because it's always waiting for that OK button to be pressed or the cancel button to be pressed. So you can always make that happen. Again, it's a new vocab term possibly, a modal window. It's on top of everything and it pauses what you're working until you can actually process it. So welcome to the pop-up demo. I'm right here on line 20. Great stuff. I say OK again, and it centers right here in the screen. I have a coffee. It's black as night, so I'm able to extract that string, combine it with this, and I'll hit OK again. Same process again. I concatenate my string with get cup size and say OK. We're good. I've got 24. I'm going to take a sip of my coffee, and let's take a, how should we change it to? I'm going to do a vegan mocha because I want to have a yummy mocha. And I say OK, and now I'm drinking my vegan mocha. And there's this much coffee of 22 ounces, 20 ounces, 18, 16, 14, 12, 10. This might be annoying, but you can actually see exactly where you are in your loop. This is one of the amazing things about this because it's pausing and waiting for you to press OK. It's a very great way to step through actual code and see what you're doing as you do this. So 8, 6, 4, and you can press the enter key to work 2, 2, and how much of refill should you get? I want to go and I'm going to make this vegan mocha to be even bigger. I'm going to get a 32 ounce vegan mocha now. I'm going to love this. Yes, lots of coffee. My vegan mocha now has this much, 32, hooray! And so I've demonstrated how I can do this. And because of the fact that I have that pop-up window, it's waiting for me to execute this to continue on. Once I hit OK, I'll exit my start method, which will then exit my runner, and I'm out of the thing. And you can see my project has executed because I'll have a termination up here just in this because I'm now out of my screen right here and we're good to go. I hope this is helpful for you. I hope this is helpful for you. I hope you will understand how we can do this. Again, pop-up messages make it a lot more fun. I think it's even better than simply using the console with this. You can also see interactions with the computer very well, and it gets you in practice for using a GUI system and development for that. Hope this is helpful. Again, cheers. Have a great day. We'll see you next time. Bye-bye.